Well, welcome to our digital retail tour for Global Pet Expo in 2021. So today, we're going to do something different. We normally be on a bus, as you can see, going from store to store, but we're going to try and cover what would normally take 4 hours in about 40 minutes. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to go through a quick overview of the pet category. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the e-commerce channel. Move on to visit a newly remodeled Petco, look at a regional independent in Louisville, Kentucky called Feeder Supply, talk about Tractor Supply, spend a few minutes talking about the MASH channel with a quick visit to Walmart and Target, and then I'll set you up to ask any Q&As in the future if you would like. And so with that, let's begin to talk about the pet category and all the exciting things happening there. 2020 was a banner year for the category by a long shot. The revenue growth around the world really set new records. In the US market, the growth in pet food and accessories, or overall pet care, grew about 10% for the year. Never happened in my history in the business. The European pet specialty market, according to the retailers that report Pets at Home and Fresh Shop, was double digits. And in Asia, which is primarily an e-com market, significant growth, double digits starting with a 2. The growth drivers were great for 2020, and I think will continue into 2021. A lot of it was driven by new pet acquisition, not just adoptions, but overall pet acquisitions by people working from home. Globally, it appears that more pet acquisitions occurred last year, almost 2 times than what would occur in a normal year. And when you look at it around the globe, certainly driven by work from home, but also by a trend called deurbanization, where people are getting frustrated by what's happening with COVID in the big cities, as well as some of the violence. And they're seeking to move to suburbs. And as part of that, some of the surveys would indicate that about 2/3 of them intend to acquire a dog or a cat as they make that move. E-commerce channel grew way faster than anything else in 2020, and we'll talk more about details there. And importantly, as we look forward to 2021, most of the folks that forecast where we're going will tell you that 2021 could likely be a year that's two times or so the growth in a normal year, so in the 5 to 6% range. And by the way, January and February would indicate that's going to be the case. They've been phenomenal months with all the different people I talk to in the industry. And so let's talk a little bit about the global outlook for pet. And we talk about scale, and we're a sizable business around the world. Euromonitor, which tends to be on the conservative side of things, would tell you that pet care, pet food and accessories is now a $138 billion global business. And if you add into that the service pieces of the business and the veterinarian pieces they don't cover, you're well over $200 billion. And then if you look at the graph on the right, and the light blue line is the year-over-year growth that's forecasted. So look at the right-hand side of the graph, those are the 5 years to come, versus the left-hand side of the graph, which is the 5 years that have been. And you can see that Euromonitor is also very optimistic in the 4.5% to 5% growth range for the next 5 years. So lots of signs indicating we're in a great category with great scale and great growth prospects. And just one more data point, and this is from the S1 that Petco filed as part of their Go Public offering. And just one more data point, if you look at their out years, they're forecasting 9% in 2021, and 7%, 6%, and 5%. So they're also very bullish on the growth prospects in years to come for our category. So with that as an overview, let's begin to talk about the US pet market. And you know that there's not a more competitive market in the world. It's really, really interesting. And to kind of set it up, look at all the banners here on the slides. 4 short years ago, if you wanted to buy a bag of Blue Buffalo, premium pet product, You could buy it at the pet specialty players in the slide, Amazon and Chewy, and that was about it. Now you can buy it at each of these banners on the slide. So you can buy it at pet specialty, e-commerce, Tractor Supply, Walmart, Meijer, Target, and even Costco. So the category has definitely expanded as other channels have come into the more premium aspects of the business. And so taking a look at channel mix, there's a lot of people out there forecasting channel mix. I've kind of created my own forecast because I think that a lot of the data points are coming from different places. And so if you take a look at 2019 to 2020, you'll notice that e-commerce has increased dramatically from a share of 22% to 29%. And specialty, which would be Petco, PetSmart, all the regional independents, as well as the 1 and 2 store independent retailers, has actually declined in share from 26 to 23%. And grocery and mass, which Target, Walmart, the Publix, Kroger, all the grocery stores, has declined from 41 to 38%. And farm and fleet stayed pretty even at 8%. So what's important here is nobody had a bad year. Nobody actually went backwards in sales that I'm aware of, but because the e-com channel grew so fast, they picked up share against some of the other channels in the business. And so since e-com now is the #1 channel in the business, let's start by talking about Chewy. So Chewy continues to accelerate revenue and share, and I'm sure everybody here is very familiar with their story. They've had a very impressive 10-year track record at this point, going from nothing to $7.2, $7.3 billion in annual revenue. This past year, they haven't reported yet. They'll report their year-end numbers towards the end of March. But it looks like a little more than a 40% increase in active customers for the year. And my guess is they're going to actually, for the first time, show a decent profit for the year as we look at the full year results. For those of you that don't know Chewy very well, they have a really unique customer value proposition. They have a broad number of SKUs, about 45, 50,000. They are at or below the best price in the market every day. They have free 2-day delivery, and they have incredible service with more than 2,000 very well-trained customer service representatives to talk with pet parents and help them through purchase decisions. So when they think about trying to grow from there, from this fantastic base they've built, their CEO talks about their growth vectors. And there they're talking about continuing to spend, the largest in the industry by far, of more than $500 million a year on marketing to acquire new customers and to continue to ramp up the amount that existing customers are spending. And by the way, if you look at the upper left-hand portion of the slide, they're currently getting $363 a year from every active customer. And that's by far the most of any of the retailers in the industry that I've studied over time. They're also looking at healthcare, and they've already established close to $500 million run rate in the pet pharmacy business. And that continues to be an investment for them to continue to do more in the healthcare, because that's kind of an underserved piece of the business that could provide significant growth for them in years to come. They're also beginning to think about how to get into the vet piece of that, and have started an experiment in telehealth, as well as an app for veterinarians to more easily renew prescriptions. They're investing in logistics with 2 new DCs and automation project to be able to more cost effectively ship product. They're working hard on private brand. Looks like right now they're in high single digits penetration. And they have a pretty lofty goal to get perhaps as high as 50% on accessories over time. And also importantly, they've got $500 million in their balance sheet to invest in future capabilities for the business. So they're certainly doing very well, have incredible momentum, and I suspect we're going to hear a lot more from them when they report the end of March. Amazon is the other big player, obviously in the e-commerce space. Interestingly here, their prime customer spends 4 times more than their non-prime customer. And so when you think about that, Chewy is positioned as the pet expert in the industry. Amazon perhaps is the most convenient. I'm a Prime member and it makes sense for me to buy my pet food and accessories on Amazon. Estimates are tough, but trying to talk to a bunch of industry folks, suppliers and others, excuse me, we would estimate that they're around the same volume of Chewy or perhaps even a bit more. Certainly behind them on food, but they have 80,000 plus accessory items online, and it appears that they're probably the largest in the world in the pet supply category. On Amazon, you can do business on Seller Central, or Vendor Central, and Seller Central means that you own the product and you put it on their site and maintain it. And so because of that marketplace feature, they attract many, many more suppliers than somebody like a Chewy or a Petco or a PetSmart might attract. They're competing very well on assortment. They're very competitive on price. And our information would indicate they grew at least 40%, if not more, in 2020. Inside the company, it appears they're putting additional resources towards pet, and one can expect that they're going to continue outsized growth in this category for many years to come. The charts just indicate to you how strong they are in the US. You know, with 45% of the e-commerce business in the US being done on Amazon. And on the bottom graph, it just shows their investment in facilities to distribute product. Different types of facilities for different needs, but certainly continue to invest with a goal, I think, of getting one-day service as quickly as possible and kind of winning the wars in terms of service to consumers. So moving on here. Let's talk now about the pet specialty channel and what's happening there. And so the pet specialty channel, as I referenced, has lost a little bit in share, but still had a very good year. Petco and PetSmart, from everything I read and hear from suppliers, were high single digits growth for the year, and perhaps mixed performance from some of the regional independent retailers out there, some doing double-digit increases, some more in the low single digits. But I actually had an opportunity as part of this, and one of the things we do on the bus tour every year at the show is to go out and look at some of these retailers. And so I was able to arrange a guided tour of a brand new remodeled store in South Miami in the Kendall area. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that store. First of all, note the new logo. Petco has kind of redefined their brand to be the health and wellness company and not just Petco, the place for cat and dog supplies. So a brand new brand and a new look. Notice the t-shirts on the two people greeting us here. What they're telling us is that they don't believe in artificial ingredients. And that's in keeping with the health and wellness brand of the business. And you're going to see that as we take a walk through the store. So before we actually walk, though, I want to cover kind of their strategy piece. You know, Ron Coughlin joined them as CEO in June of 2018. And he's brought on a new leadership team and a new strategy. And that strategy really has a couple of really key components. The first is a focus on digital sales, and they've gone from almost nothing to a run rate this past year of somewhere around $700 million. And their definition of digital is certainly different than Chewy's. Their definition of digital is an order that might have been bought online, picked up in store, an order that perhaps was called in and is being picked up with curbside service, or an order that was originated online and is being shipped from the store to a customer's home. And in fact, 80% of the digital orders are actually fulfilled from store, really giving them a point of difference versus Chewy or Amazon. They would tell you that in many instances, their ability to ship from those 1,500 or so stores is more cost effective than shipping across the US from a much smaller number of distribution centers. Also important, they're focusing on the vet and services piece of the business. Obviously, you can't sell that on the internet, and they're doing a lot to grow those sticky services. They're focusing a lot on exclusive product and then working hard to make better use of their customer data. The pinwheel on the upper right just takes a look at how all those different strategies I just talked about come together to provide a more comprehensive experience for the customer. And at the center, they would tell you that half of their customers really desire to have that one trusted provider be all things for them, for their pet. And then at the bottom, it kind of shows the value of being involved in many different channels to your customer. So if they have a customer that only shops the store, they're going to spend an average of, call it $200, $250 per year. If they shop in two channels, say the store and the internet, they're going to spend twice that, or 2.8 times that. If they're going to shop in the store, online, and perhaps in grooming, 4.4x. And if you add vet to that, it's 6.4x. So not only is there good customer loyalty value in owning the entire circle, but also there's good financial value in adding that as well. So let's take a look here at the pet food department in Petco. And they talk a lot about merchandise differentiation, and they really have positioned differently here. They're positioning this whole thing as premium. They discontinued all so-called grocery level foods that would contain artificial ingredients. And noticing they're called out raw, fresh, and frozen. And on the right-hand side, you can see the coolers and the freezers that house those ingredients. I call this next generation food, and this by far is a small piece of the business today, but by far the fastest growing piece of the pet food business. And they continue to expand shelf space in this category each and every year. Moving on in terms of merchandise differentiation to their private brand program. It's $1.1 billion and a huge part of their strategy. On the left of the slide, you'll see the set for Wholehearted, which is their private brand food. It started as one brand. Today it's morphed, as the center piece of the slide shows you, into a number of sub-brands, and it's involved in dry and wet food as well as treats for both dog and cat. And it's got a great value prop, very, very strong formulas that compete well with some of the better brand names in the industry, and at a price that's a bit more affordable for the average consumer. And at the right-hand side, we're seeing one of the parts of private brand that Petco does really well, and that's seasonal celebrations. This is their Halloween set from last Halloween. They do a similar set for holiday, and then a different one into the spring. And these seasonal sets remain a very large part of their private brand program. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about some of the other parts of their private brand program. So looking at the many programs they have in the store, ready in the center is their upscale program. It's their premium product. And in some of their larger stores, they've actually created a ready shop to better showcase that product. The upper left-hand side is Good Lovin', which is their treat, or their pet treat and chewable category. The upper right, Leaps and Bounds, which is their pet toy category. On the left is the Bond & Company set for small dogs. The center, So Fresh, their private brand for sanitation. And then on the right, Well and Good, the product for grooming. So a number of private brands, huge part of their store, and I think it really gives the customer something that's special only at Petco. So talking about exclusive brands, again, super important to their strategy. And they've been successful in this case, getting Origin, Honest Kitchen, and Taste of the Wild to grant them exclusivity in the Pet Superstore channel for a period of time. So again, attracting the customer with products only they can have versus their competition. And not only is it the total brands, but also they've worked with some of their really trusted suppliers, in this case, Hills and Blue Buffalo, to create some sub-brands that are exclusive to Petco. So this whole merchandise differentiation thing is very evident in the stores and very, very important to their strategy. One more to talk about, and that's a partnership with one of the leading thought partners in the company, and that's a company called Just Food for Dogs. Just Food for Dogs has created human-grade, fresh pet food that's made in special kitchens that equip just to make pet food. And this is the front of Union Square, one of the larger volume Petco stores in New York City. And you can see the kitchen, the chef's hat, and everything that goes into selling the product. So Petco has added their pantries, which are refrigerated cases that provide this fresh human-grade pet food to their customers on a weekly basis. And they've added into a large number of stores across their business, with more stores to come. Again, one more piece of the differentiation strategy. Last, perhaps, in the differentiation strategy is their focus on what I would call the Petco Zoo. And that's the categories perhaps that don't get enough attention: aquatics, bird, reptile, and small animals. And even in their newly remodeled stores, they've invested considerable capital in putting in, brand new habitats to ensure that the animals are well cared for and look great to the customer, as well as the very broad assortments necessary to sustain those species in their stores. So again, you can see merchandise differentiation high on their list, but services are as well. And in touring the store, would find that they've done a great job with grooming, and they talk in their Go Public documents about how they have really instituted a great training program there, as well as programs to ensure they have the best and most qualified groomers in their store. They've developed a self-wash station for those customers that would rather do it themselves. And then they've really been pushing hard on the dog training aspect that brings in new, hopefully lifetime customers to their enterprise. And then newer for Petco, but really important, is their investment in veterinarian. They now have 100 or 105 or so vet clinics across their company. And these are not just well-care clinics. These are full-scale vet clinics with operating rooms, x-ray capabilities, 3 or 4 exam rooms, qualified veterinarian on staff at all times, as well as several vet techs, and their larger stores, 2 and sometimes 3 veterinarians. So they're making a really big effort to make this a big part of their go-forward enterprise. Looking at Pets at Home in the UK, which is a bit of a lookalike for this strategy, 30% of their revenues are coming from their services business. So Petco's just getting going here. They have a target of 900 stores, and we can expect to see them continue to grow this aggressively as they move forward in their new strategy. And the other part of their strategy that I do want to spend a couple seconds on is the digital transformation. Again, they've gone from almost nothing to what would be approaching 15% penetration in their business in 2020. As I talked about earlier, they have a favorable cost structure, and they see this as a large part of their future growth. And then one more thing to talk about in Petco, and that's their international strategy. Many of the folks that attend the bus tour come from other countries. And Petco has begun and has done quite well in their Mexico operation, where they have a partnership with Grupo Gigante to have Grupo Gigante operate the stores in Mexico, where they supply the assortments and most of the merchandise. In Canada, they've partnered with Canadian Tire and have store within a store shops in some of their stores, and a broad selection of their private brand assortments in many of their stores across the country. When I talked to Petco about being part of the bus tour, they asked me to relay that they continue to be very interested in developing international partnerships, particularly around their private brand assortments. They believe they could be very additive to some of the international retailers, in other countries, in terms of helping them with to do better in their private brand initiatives. And so with that, let's kind of move into the independent channel in pet specialty. And in the US, there's a vast number of stores, still 5,000, perhaps even 6,000 independent pet stores out there. And there's a number of regional chains that make up perhaps 2/3 of that store count. And these regional chains have recently got together to form an organization called IndiePet. And the purpose of that organization is not to be a buying group, but to really help these regional independent pet retailers to have a stronger voice with manufacturers, because these are the groups, this is where all the new ideas come from. These are the groups that are closest to the customers every day. And over time, they've been responsible for much of the innovation in the industry. And they want to be sure that they are playing on an equal playing field with the big guys, the e-commerce giants, the Petco, PetSmarts of the world. And they want to be sure that they see a clear future and that the manufacturers value them as a partner. And so this group has been formed, a number of supplier sponsors to help them get on their way. And I think they'll be a great voice in helping to ensure that they remain a viable part of our go-forward industry. And so today I want the second stop on our tour is at Feeder Supply. And one of the advantages of doing this digitally is I don't have to stay in Orlando. So pretend now we're in Louisville and we're looking at Feeder Supply, a local regional pet specialty retailer in Louisville, Kentucky. Feeders has 41 or 42 stores today, 30 of them in Louisville, Lexington, Kentucky, and the remainder in a chain they purchased 5 years ago called Chowhound in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so this is a newly remodeled Feeder Supply store. They average about 10,000 square feet. And they've actually got 19 stores in the Louisville DMA. So great density in the market, much more than a Petco or a PetSmart would have if they were in a similar size city. So they're kind of a namesake in the market, family founded business, and the family's name lives on in the name Feeder Supply. Huge assortment of food, embracing all the way from grocery up to the next gen I talked about earlier, and a broad assortment of accessories as well. Looking at the dog area of the store, they've got broad assortment of accessories and a bit of a differentiation versus the pet superstores. You can see the Made in the USA, baked for you pet cookies on the front end cap there. Not something you'd perhaps find in the superstores, and something that's unique to them. And across the store, you'll see similar type presentations in each of the merchandise categories. So moving into the cat area of the store, it's recently been a focus for them with phenomenal growth. And there again, they embrace all walks of life. All the way from the grocery brands up to the premium and the next generation brands. Broad assortment of cat litters for the customer, as well as a broad assortment of toys and other accessories for the cat customer. And they too value the zoo portion of pet and have embraced the aquatic bird, reptile, and small animal pieces of the store. Have done very well in live, and in fact have had just a phenomenal year in live this past year, and again have the broad assortments for the customer in that area of the store as well. Private brand's been super important to them, and as you can see, they're working hard to develop the IncrediPet brand, and you'll see that become more and more dominant in the year to come. And then when we think about their growth strategies, they're focused on a couple of things. They fully get the fact that the customer expects omni-channel today, and they're providing it. They've very quickly developed an online presence and can ship from stores to homes and do it effectively today. They also have partnered with Instacart for same-day delivery. And then on the services piece of the business, they very quickly have launched a number of grooming salons that have quickly become fully booked and with more on the books to come. So they've really taken a family-ish business that was focused on pet food and supplies and moved it into the new world where the digital e-commerce piece of the business, omni-channel piece, and services have become way more important. And just a quick picture of what you would see in a store around the self-service pet wash they have in all stores, as well as the grooming installations they're putting in their stores today. And so just one slide on Chowhound, their sister concept in Grand Rapids, a little bit smaller, about 6,000 square feet, predominantly focused on dog and cat assortments, and very, very dominant in the Grand Rapids market, again, with 9-ish stores in the market versus a presence of Petco and PetSmart of about 2 stores each. So great coverage, great convenience for the customers. And so let's move on to the farm and fleet channel. It's been 8% and has remained 8%. There's been some significant growth in the channel this year to maintain that share. And so we're going to talk for a second about Tractor Supply. And they're estimated to be a bit over $2 billion in the pet category. Very high growth piece of their business. And they also own a small company, a couple hundred stores called PetSense, primarily in rural cities. But the highlights of this company are really looking at their financials for the year on the bottom right. They had a 27% overall sales increase and a 23% comp store sales increase. And again, our information is that the pet category outperformed that. So they're a real player in this category. And as you can see on the next slide here, they've got a pretty sizable in-store department on the right-hand side there, where they have all levels of food from grocery up to the next gens, with a real emphasis in the premium assortment. On the left-hand side of the slide, they have developed their own premium brand called 4Health in several different tiers. And then as you can see from a marketing perspective, very focused on even bringing in new customers for pet. Right now they have Pet Appreciation Week going on. So a real player that continues to gain share in the market. And so last on our bus tour is stopping a couple of the grocery and mass guys. And the grocery and mass channel lost share last year, but again, continued to gain sales. And omni-channel strategies for both of the companies we're going to look at continue to be very important. So let's start with Target. You look at the variety of storefronts here, and you know right away, that Target is the new department store. Fashion forward for sure, and actually added $15 billion in new sales as a company in 2020. Their financials tell a great story, 19% comp store sales gain in 2020. Now the company is a $92.5 billion company. 18% of their business now is in the digital channel. And, they continue to grow their digital business aggressively, 145% growth in 2020. Two major strategies to talk about. One is what they're doing with private brand. And you can see that they've got 10 $1 billion private brands in their portfolio today. They put an awful lot of product development expertise towards these brands, source them very well, and the customers come to respect these brands. They've also changed their store formats aggressively and understand that in many cases, smaller stores are more desired in today's environment, and have opened 140 small format stores in urban centers as well as in colleges and universities across the country. And that strategy is a major part of their go forward initiatives in 2021 and beyond. Digital's been very important to them. They view their store network as their fulfillment centers. Their business model is stores are at the center, and they're fulfilling almost all their orders, from their stores. And they see that as a very scalable model and a way to effectively compete against Amazon and others. Importantly, they're going to be investing $4 billion this year and $4 billion per year in the years to come to to continue to keep Target on the cutting edge. A number of new store openings and remodels, investing in last mile and replenishment capabilities, and continuing to enhance the store experience and the experience in customer fulfillment to the home. Target is doing well in the pet category. They continue to expand their assortment, and from what I can see, actually expand the overall footage of pet in their stores. You can see they continue to grow the space for Blue Buffalo and premium food, have formed partnerships with the likes of BarkBox to upgrade their toy assortment, and continue to be a dramatic player in this category. So moving on to Walmart, the largest retailer in the world. It's important to understand that they're aggressively making progress, and that progress applies to the pet category. So probably everyone remembers the famous Walmart flywheel, essentially buy for less, sell for less, acquire more customers, and repeat. So they've modified it a bit to talk more about earning credibility as the customer's primary destination, and then expanding the customer's reach through the physical stores as well as e-commerce, health and wellness, and financial services. And then developing sustainable lower cost, both by lowering input costs on products, as well as by becoming a more efficient retailer. And then becoming more relevant as a result of their overall customer value proposition, and then redoing the cycle again. So they've taken what's been an old idea and modernized it for the times. They've also had a very strong year, with enterprise sales of $564 billion. Walmart US comp store sales up 8.6%, notable there for sure. And then importantly is looking forward in terms of where they're going. And the upper left-hand corner is what you have to notice, and that's that they anticipate that about 20% of the business, or $100 billion, will be in e-commerce in the not too distant future. And that's important for all of us in the pet category to know, because they have a marketplace as well. And on that marketplace, you'll see most of the premium and super premium brands in the category. Through a few of them are shown on the slide, but if you go online, you'll see the vast array, similar to what you would see on Chewy. They've also been very focused on private brand, relaunching their Pure Balance label this year, and I'm told it has been very successful. And within their set in their stores, they've increased the amount of premium foods to almost be equal to grocery brands. And that's been a huge change in the last couple of years. So one more thing to talk about in terms of channels, and that's a channel that's begun to emerge, direct to consumer. And there's a dozen or so players in this channel, Just Food for Dogs that I mentioned earlier, Spot and Tangle, Farmer's Dog, and others. Doing some research in the industry, it looks like that channel grew more than 100% this past year, and is now close to $250 million, and has attracted a large amount of seed capital. And we can expect that to continue to be a major growth factor in the industry in the year to come. And so I want to leave you with one final thought. We've looked at a wide variety of retailers. All of them had a very good year. All of them are doing some great things to continue to grow the industry in 2021. So Morgan Stanley, certainly a well-respected investment banking firm, recently put together a research report called Welcome to the Petriarchy. And they're forecasting that the trends we've been seeing will sustain. And that this business today that we call in the US around $100 billion will grow at 8% per year over the next 10 years and get to be a $275 billion enterprise. Way far out thinking, for sure, but boy, all the signs are there. We're seeing lots of great things on the supplier side, lots of great things on the retailer side, and I think we have a tremendous amount to look forward to in this really exciting industry. So thank you so much for joining me on the digital bus tour today. I hope you found it helpful. And hopefully next year I'll see you back in Orlando to do this in person.